Now on to one of the big stories of the day. Telkom has suspended Chief Financial Officer Jacques Schindehutte pending a disciplinary process. To discuss this, as well as MTN's lower than expected third quarter subscriber base numbers, we're now joined by ICT analyst Jacques Pater from Africa Analysis. Jacques, thank you so much for your time today.
Good afternoon, thanks.
Good to finally see you. I told you off air after having harassed you previously. But the biggest, definitely, the biggest story of the day, Jacques Schindehutte being suspended. This is the CFO who's well respected in the industry, previously been with the likes of APSA as well as Transnet. This definitely is a surprise.
And I suppose also presiding over the CFO function when Telkom's going through its turnaround phase, one could say, or beginning of it, hopefully. So it is a surprise, and obviously Telkom is not revealing much about it, I suppose. Mr. Schindehutte is not talking about it himself, but it sounds like it sounds like that there is something that the investigation team, the legal firm, came across maybe quite suddenly, and who knows, maybe something tangible, and that's why they requested the board to remove the CFO for the time being or suspend him. Perhaps more so than somebody just trying to play a political game inside Telkom and have him go away.
Well, we have tried to ask Mr. Schindehutte as well as Telkom to come on board and share their comments with us today. Unfortunately, they're not commenting, but I do see a story on Tech Central where it appears as though he has made mention of the fact that he was given an opportunity to resign beforehand, but that wouldn't have been congruent, he says, as well as to his value system. I'm not too sure what that entirely means. I mean, we'll get time to analyze it a lot.
I suppose
further,
it could mean that if he resigned, he effectively may be deemed to have admitted to some wrongdoing, and he decided to resign, and probably would have to, his reputation may have suffered. If he feels that he's got the case against him is not strong, or he may be redeemed in the future. So that's probably the reason for it. But I think resignation would effectively say he's either is fed up and wants to leave, but then he'd have to explain a lot to the industry and to the public, or it would be seen as admittance of fault.
Dobik, it's not the first time that this has happened. Recently, MTN CFO as well, Nazir Patel, was also suspended against that. For an analyst like yourself who focuses on the ICT sector, are you concerned by such occurrences?
Well, it depends. Once we know the outcome of these investigations, hopefully, and the reason for suspensions, everything will be a lot clearer, or hopefully clearer. But it could be interpreted either way. One interpretation is, yes, something is going on at these large corporations at the high levels, executive levels, and it may not be good news necessarily. The other potential explanation is we are moving into an era of better governance by the corporates, finally taking King Commission reports and regulations to heart, which would be a good thing. And in the process, obviously, this is the process that needs to be followed, and these things will happen, but maybe they're not really something that needs to be taken as a bad sign. So I think at this point in time, obviously the market is considering it rather be safe and divest a little bit and not support these shares in such instances, but ultimately maybe it's going to be more good coming out of it than bad. And if it is bad news, let's say, for the companies in that sense that wrongdoing has been committed, then yes, it is still better to suspend and ultimately remove these personalities rather than hang on to them.
For Telkom as an investment case, they've been plagued by issues for the last couple of years. It was multi-links in Nigeria, it was political interference locally, leadership changes at the helm, and now this. What does it mean for Telkom since they've implemented a turnaround strategy which looks now as though it has some cracks?
Yeah, well, I think the turnaround strategy is still to be implemented. From as far as I know, the new CEO has not released his strategy yet, because every CEO has got a strategy coming into that seat. It's a bit of a setback, but I think probably a minor setback. And again, I think the industry will pause here and wait to see what happens. Now, if it turns out to be something credible against Mr. Schindehutte, then yes, it could be detrimental to Telkom, to its reputation. It's still going through troubled waters. But if not, then I think it will be just a small stumbling block. We have seen Telkom appreciate significantly over the past few months in terms of its share, market cap. Granted, from where it came from a couple of years back, it's still a long way to catch up, but it is on a positive path. So hopefully it's more of a small incident in the greater scheme of things rather than something major.
Topik, let's look at another telco company now, MTN. We touched on that just a little bit earlier with Neo as we looked through the market performance, mentioning there that it is a tough environment at the moment. Pricing is stiff. That should be a good thing for South African consumers.
Yeah, certainly, yeah, but hopefully not to the point where what we've seen in some of the other markets in Africa, where it gets to the point where operators are no longer able to invest in the network to keep up the quality and keep expanding the coverage and keep expanding the suite of services, for instance, because they're just not generating enough revenue to cover that capex. It becomes problematic, and then they revert to look at higher prices. I don't think we'll reach that point in South Africa, but we want operators that we want tariffs that are what we deem reasonable and affordable. We want operators that are at the same time strong, that can invest and continue with healthy competition, rather than see one operator fail, two operators fail, and then we're back to a monopoly or a duopoly situation. For MTN specifically, South Africa is one of the big three markets, and unfortunately for MTN, or so to speak, South Africa and Iran, the two big markets, are reaching maturity or have reached maturity. Nigeria is reaching maturity, so they need to look for new ways to generate revenues.